Very good evening and welcome to Power News. I'm Juhi Rajput. In today's episode, we're going to have a discussion on can rural India be provided electricity through solar microgrid. And to discuss the same, we've been joined by Mr. Tarun Kapoor, Joint Secretary, Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. Mr. Ibrahim H. Rahman, Director, Social Transformation Division, TERI. On extreme left, we have Mr. Chandrabhushan, Deputy Director General, CSE India. We also have with us Mr. Kunjan Gandhi, Business Development Executive, Gram Power. Very good evening and welcome to Power News. Mr. Kapoor, in India we still have a lot of unelectrified villages, and some of these villages are remotely located where grid connectivity is either not feasible nor cost effective. In such a situation, solar microgrid could be a very good solution. First of all, tell us that what is the policy framework for solar microgrid and how is MNRE planning to implement these projects on a larger scale?
You are right when you say that large number of villages are remote and it's not possible to provide power through the grid. Even if you provide power through the grid, it's very difficult to maintain. So microgrids and mini grids are a good solution. So in MNRE we believe that the basic needs can be satisfied by just 100 watts, a load of just 100 watts. 100 watts would be equal to one normal electric bulb if we use the inefficient method. But if we use LED, then with 100 watts you can have 5 to 6 lights. You can also use your basic devices like mobile charging and maybe a small TV set. It can work. And for 100 watts these microgrids would work very well. Now on the second part which you mentioned, that what is MNRE doing or what is the policy of the government. So far we have two schemes. One scheme is for areas which are not getting connected, where we give 90% subsidy, and the other scheme is our standard scheme where we give 30% subsidy. So both these schemes are available for setting up mini grids and microgrids, and some projects have come up, but I think this is a time when we have to scale up now.
Well, solar microgrids offer a solution to bring energy to off-grid communities. The question here is that will this just be done on an experimental basis or it will ever become a part of mainstream economics?
We have to conceptualize mini grid on a much more wider and grander scale than what we are thinking right now. We recently did a calculation looking at, if suppose, as Mr. Kapoor said, we give 100 watt to each household. Look at the number of villages that are electrified but get less than 6 hours. Look at the number of villages that are not electrified. And the number that comes out is, if we can install close to 25,000 megawatt, we can give street lighting, we can give 100 watt electricity for 6 hours to every village in this country and every household for 6 hours of lighting of 100 watt. That's the calculation. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru Solar Mission has a target of 22,000 megawatt. Now, the question that government has to decide whether we go for this 22,000 megawatt to set up megawatt scale solar power plants, or do we use this 25,000 megawatt to light up the lives of all the people in this country.
We have reach of the grid to over 95% villages. Now, even in spite of that, the access is very poor. The availability is very poor, the reliability is very poor, the quality is very poor. Now, we have to see that how mini grid or any other solution can actually play a role in this. There are two ways of doing it. One, of course, is to first focus on the basic needs and have. The advantage with solar technology is that it is modular. You can start off with a 100 watt mini grid and you can scale it up to 1500 or even 5 kilowatt, etc. But what is essentially required is creating a conducive environment for entrepreneurship and local level management. And that is the key for any upscaling effort that is required. We have seen wherever there are local entrepreneurs who have been managing these grids and who are getting revenues out of these grids, the management, the efficiency and service delivery is much better. And the demand comes in a modular way. So you start off with a 500 watt grid and you over a period of time have upscaled it to 1.5 kilowatt.
Well, Ministry of Power had issued guidelines in the year 2009 and there were some amendments in the year 2011. And like you said, there is a provision of 90% subsidy also, and rest 10% is to be arranged by the state implementing agency, that is REC. But if we take a reality check, it is still on paper. I mean, in so many years, what could be the reason that it has not really taken off? There are issues, but then what needs to be done?
That there are so many government schemes, like for example DDG schemes, which are there in place, but you see very little ground level implementation. That's because of because of a lot of entry point barriers. So like we have experienced that these schemes are tendered out via state nodal agencies, and you have a lot of technical as well as financial criteria for all these things. So there is a pressing need for the relaxation of these entry barriers for small players to come in and set up microgrids, because the large players are not interested in projects worth 5 crores or 10 crores. So it's essentially the small players who will be interested in doing these projects, and they are much more socially inclined as compared to the large players. And when you say, so some of the entry barriers which are there are financial. For example, for a 6 and 7 crore project, you have a financial barrier of 50 crores. You have to show your company's existence and stuff like that. So it's a pretty old way of thinking in the way this scheme has been designed, and we have been pressing Ministry of Power that you should make some relaxations, and we have seen that the tenders are floated 4 or 5 times for the same project, and you don't have developers for the project. So the real issue lies in relaxing the entry barriers and making the field level for the small players who can go and implement it.
Basic norms and guidelines should be there in terms of the technology and the product, levels of empanelment, etc. But the type of configuration, what kind of configuration, all that should be left to the developers. And small level developers need to be encouraged. In each of the areas where we've been able to identify entrepreneurs, these are the entrepreneurs who are actually supplying electricity through diesel gensets. And because they found this to be more viable, they have shifted and they have recovered not only their operational cost, they've been able to recover their capital cost. But I think it is taking the package down to the entrepreneurs, making it conducive for those entrepreneurs to either switch or to get into this business.
Well, it's time to take a short break here. Keep watching Power News.
Indian Energy Exchange, India's premier power trading platform.
From manufacturing of energy cables to EHV installations to renewable energy solutions to retail energy products, our technology energizes lives. Ravin, energizing lives.
मैं नहीं सोऊंगा, मेरे बेड के नीचे मॉन्स्टर है।
रोहन, मॉन्स्टर्स रियल नहीं होते।
होते हैं मॉम, वो रात को मुझे हु हु करके डराता है।
अच्छा, अगर डर लगे तो लाइट ऑन कर देना।
अंधेरे में स्विच कैसे ढूंढूं? अगर मॉन्स्टर ने मेरा हाथ खा लिया तो?
अभी सो जाओ, कल देखते हैं।
Switch on, the monster gone. L&T switches, easy to locate in the dark. The only switch with a 12-year warranty.
Power Grid Corporation of India, the central transmission utility, world-class integrated global transmission company with dominant leadership in emerging power market, ensuring reliability, safety and economy. Power Grid, building a smarter grid.
Welcome back, you're watching Power News, and in today's episode we're having a discussion on can rural India be provided electricity through solar microgrid. Well, according to the government, community, even individuals are the eligible project developers. Do we have any mechanism in place where a village or group of villagers, if they submit a project report to state agency for developing a solar microgrid in a particular village, they would get the budgetary support from the government?
See, it's not that simple, because now there are two aspects to it. One is the local management, which means where local entrepreneur or local person has to be involved, and second is the technology part, where we would like to look at someone who has experience and who is able to maybe manage over a larger area. So these two things have to come together. So while we would be looking for organization which is maybe either into manufacturing or knows the technology, and at the grassroots level we would be looking for either small organizations, small NGOs, or maybe village level entrepreneurs. Now these two have to come together to be really able to make it successful. And when you are putting government subsidy, and in most cases 90% government subsidy, then you can't just give that money, and even if there are say a few fraud cases, then the scheme will just not run. People would just oppose it, and we'd have to withdraw. So we have to be a little careful on that. But then I think this point of getting these small companies or small NGOs or small organizations into this is very important. This is, I think, which we really have to look at. Now we've shortlisted about 61 NGOs, and we've done one seminar with them, and now we are going to do a little bit of a training and then bring them up. And then also now we are in the process of shortlisting some companies who want to work in this field, so that we have enough people or enough organizations to work in this area, and those organizations who are there to stay, because after you put a 90% subsidy in the hands of someone, you want that system to run for 20 years or 15 years or 30 years. We wouldn't want that, and I have so many examples where microgrids or mini grids or other systems have been installed and they are rotting now because the organization which took that responsibility installed it and vanished after 5 years or 2 years or 3 years, and that earns a very bad name. So therefore, we want organizations who can stay there for a longer period.
The ideal way to do is in two parts. First, developers, small developers should be encouraged to develop grids in very, very remote areas. The second point is where there is grid and there is probably less than 6 hours of supply or less supply, you set up solar cogeneration. Now there are technologies which are available today that you can inject power into the grid. So you set up solar cogeneration, and there is this very good scheme under RGGVY called as distribution franchise. So you have the villagers or the panchayat take up the distribution franchise, and you take up a fixed tariff from the distribution franchise. So the revenue is guaranteed for the distribution company, the local entrepreneurship is generated, as well as there are people, 5 or 6 people are employed in the village who are taking care of the grid and distributing power. Now when local guys are distributing power, you save cost of sending your guy there to read the meters and take the readings and send the bills, take the bills. So that all those things are locally, and it's their own responsibility. So you have ownership over the grid. And these kinds of models are already in RGVY guidelines, and there are very less number of people who are taking advantage of all these things. So it's pretty relaxed over there.
We see that solar microgrid projects have got very lukewarm response from the private players. What has been the reason behind this?
Now we need to divide subsidy into two parts, where you need capital subsidy, where you don't need capital subsidy. Now remote villages where entrepreneurs are not likely to go, maybe that's where capital subsidy is required, where government capital subsidy can go. But where there is already a grid, where grid is supplying power for 4 hours, maybe we don't need capital subsidy. Probably we need much softer loans. We need other kind of support for entrepreneurs to come in and set not mini grids of kilowatt scale, but grids of megawatt scale, which can, in the heartland of Bihar, of densely populated state, where 20 million households don't have access to electricity, a megawatt scale project can supply electricity to say 50 villages. We can also visualize mini grid like that. We don't have to visualize mini grid as only kilowatt and watt. We can also visualize mini grid as megawatt scale. So I think subsidy design also has to be in terms of our scale, what we want to achieve in the end.
Well, we see very few entrepreneurs like Gram Power, Mera Gaon Power, which have installed these systems and they're supplying electricity to provide lighting and cell phone charging to rural households. And you charge each household approximately 150 to 200 per month. Do you see this model attractive in terms of payback and return on investment?
Just one point I just want to add. These microgrids are 100% subsidized, like capital subsidy, 100% capital subsidy has been given. So now if you've given 100% capital subsidy, all you are trying to recover is the maintenance cost. And you look at a small microgrid, maybe you look at a 10 kilowatt microgrid, which would be servicing say 100 homes or maybe 200 homes, and the collection is say 100 rupees. You do a calculation and you want to keep just one person to maintain that. You pay him 3,000 rupees, you want a little money to replace batteries. So you would find that even with this price which you are charging 150 rupees, it's very difficult to carry on, just the maintenance part with 100% subsidy. So if you now reduce that 150 and you say I'm going to charge us $6, then you come down to say 40 rupees a month or 50 rupees a month, the model for that entrepreneur becomes unviable. Some entrepreneur who's doing this today, he's trying to get resources from various places. He will get say 30% subsidy from us. We don't have a scheme where we give 100% subsidy. So maybe he takes 30% from us. CSR funds, that's another big source. I think it's going to become a very big source. So that entrepreneur or that NGO looks for some money from CSR. They may get some money from outside the country also. So they're just trying to put money, whatever money they can get, put it together, cover the capital cost, then run it. And while running it, they find that they have to charge 150 rupees or 200 rupees. So today, if we start telling them that why are you charging 150 rupees, you charge 40 rupees, then the guy who's doing it, he may also run away. So that's why I tend to say that at least let him carry on. Let the system go on the way it is.
Now, when I say that they have to pay 6 rupees, but the mini-grid charge is suppose 16 rupees, that 10 rupees can come from feed-in tariff, that the government in any case right now will be paying for solar energy. Okay. Now, these are the models that we need to discuss, but what I am trying to say is, let's not look at village any different than any one of us here.
I think it's important that we really get the economics calculations into the right perspective. And normally we end up comparing grid and off-grid peripherally in terms of this is 6 rupees per unit, that is 16 or whatever it comes to. You have to start from the basics. People have been using kerosene and they have to pay a cost for kerosene, and so the quantum and the amount of light delivered and the unit, it will go up to a few hundred. So if you calculate from there, if you compare in terms of the availability part, that when I need the if I do not have electrons flowing into the wire for the entire month and I still have to pay my minimum charges, that has to be factored in. Why are people in the villages willing to pay that 5 rupees or 150 rupees per month? Who are we to decide? They are willing to pay that because they are getting whatever they want for the services that they want and at the time that they want.
I philosophically disagree with Mr. Rahman on the issue of if people are willing to pay, they will pay. If you create a scarcity, people will pay. Okay? People in villages are willing to pay 150 rupees because there is a scarcity of energy. We are going to have assembly election in Delhi right now. What is the big debate in Delhi? Price of electricity. People feel that even 4 rupees is unjust because we have electricity. So I think in villages people are willing to pay, or in Gurgaon people are paying diesel 14 rupees because there is a scarcity of electricity. That's the case in the rural area as well. So it is not because people are willing to pay, but because there is a scarcity. Till the time there is a scarcity, they will pay 150 rupees even for a solar lantern to just light one village. Okay. So I think that the reason, not because people are happy with this service and paying 150, they are happy because there is scarcity and this service they are getting at high price. So that's the point that I wanted to make.
No, on that, I mean, that's the point I was making. There is a scarcity. It's not a scarcity of electricity. It is the scarcity to do this service or provide the service that they need, and that is why they are paying. So that is the fundamental. So my point was that when you are doing the economic comparison, please do it not from the technology point of view. Do it from the service delivery point of view.
Time to take another short break. You keep watching Power News.
Indian Energy Exchange, India's premier power trading platform.
Jal, jal, jal. 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 Jal, jal, jal.
जल से जल तक, मेगावाट से मेगावाट्स तक, SJVN Limited.
Power Finance Corporation, the most preferred financial institution, providing affordable and competitive products and services with efficient and internationally integrated sourcing. PFC, partnering the reforms in the Indian power sector.
Welcome back, you're watching Power News, and in today's episode we're having a discussion on can rural India be provided electricity through solar microgrid. We see that debt financing for renewable projects in rural areas is not easily available. There are no generation subsidies to ensure a levelized cost of energy and return on investment. As a result, banks are also unwilling to provide debt. How could this issue be addressed?
Without money being available at a price which is affordable or at a price where the model becomes viable, I don't think we can really scale up. So we've been talking to financial institutions quite a lot, and this is a part of the priority sector lending now, which means that banks must do something, like they must do at least a percentage of this. We would be very happy if all the financial institutions can be involved, because when you go to a bank, banks are generally looking at large loans. They would rather do whatever lending they want with few large loans than go into very small loans. And even though there are some norms set by the RBI, still I think there is lots which needs to be done. So we are talking to the financial institutions. We are also talking to Ministry of Finance on this. And I just want to say that this is a very important issue. We know about it and we are working on it.
Well, renewable technologies such as solar microgrid has the potential to greatly support the development of rural communities across India. A solar microgrid solution, if supported by government incentive, can yield good returns for investor and provide villages with affordable and reliable power supply. Well, on this note, I'd like to thank all the panelists for joining us here in Power News. Thank you.